He who conquers himself, the world bows before him. This isn't just a poetic phrase, it's the fundamental truth of human existence. Because before you can rule anything, a career, a relationship, a dream, you must first rule yourself. The hardest battle you'll ever fight is not against society, not against failure, and not even against injustice. It's the war between who you are and who you could be, between your higher self that demands discipline, courage, and purpose, and your lower self that seeks comfort, distraction, and escape. You cannot command the world if you're still a slave to your impulses. Every time you choose laziness over effort, fear over action, or ego over truth, you surrender a piece of your sovereignty. And the more you surrender, the smaller you become. But the moment you begin to take responsibility, real, uncomfortable responsibility, something shifts. You start to build order within your chaos. You begin to see that freedom is not found in doing whatever you please, but in doing what is necessary. Discipline becomes your sword, and integrity your shield. And here's the paradox: the more you master yourself, the less you need to control others. People start to respect you not because you demand it, but because your presence commands it. Your words carry weight because they're rooted in truth, not performance. The world begins to bend, not out of fear, but out of recognition of your authenticity. To conquer yourself is to confront your darkness, your insecurities, your excuses, your false pride, and to bring them into the light. When you do, you become something unshakable, something the world cannot ignore. The world bows not to arrogance, but to mastery. And mastery is born only when a man wins the silent war within. The most dangerous battlefield is not out there in the world, it's inside your own mind. The greatest enemy you will ever face is not the critic who mocks you, not the competitor who outshines you, and not the system that holds you back. It's the voice inside your head that whispers you can't. It's the quiet resistance that keeps you from doing what you know must be done. This inner enemy is subtle. It hides behind excuses, disguises itself as logic, and convinces you to settle for less than what you're capable of. Most people spend their entire lives trying to conquer the world, yet never confront the fears, doubts, and weaknesses that quietly rule them from within. When you look deep enough, you begin to realize that the external world merely reflects your internal state. The chaos you see around you often mirrors the disorder within you. The people you blame for your problems, the circumstances you curse, the obstacles you fear, they are all projections of the inner turmoil you've refused to face. The moment you take responsibility for your inner life, everything changes. You stop playing the victim. You stop giving power to others. You understand that the only real war is the one between your higher self, the part of you that strives for greatness, and your lower self, the part that craves comfort, approval, and escape. Your inner enemy thrives in silence. It feeds on your lack of awareness. Every time you procrastinate, every time you lie to yourself, every time you let fear decide your next move, you're feeding that enemy. It grows stronger with every compromise, every excuse, every surrender to weakness. You can't defeat what you refuse to acknowledge. The first act of courage is not to climb a mountain or fight an opponent. It's to stand before your own reflection and see the truth of who you are. It's painful, yes, but it's also liberating. Because once you identify the enemy within, you can begin the process of defeating it. Defeating the inner enemy doesn't happen overnight. It's a daily discipline, a choice made in every small decision. When you wake up early instead of sleeping in, when you choose honesty over comfort, when you act despite fear, you weaken that internal resistance. You build strength where there was weakness and clarity where there was confusion. The process is uncomfortable because growth always demands the death of something old. The lazy self, the fearful self, the prideful self. True transformation begins when you stop fighting with the world and start wrestling with yourself. That's where real power is forged. And when you finally begin to conquer that inner enemy, the world outside starts to transform too. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. You stop chasing validation and begin walking with conviction. The same situations that once terrified you now challenge you. The same people who once controlled your emotions now lose their power over you. Because once you have mastered the battle within, no force in the world can defeat you. The greatest victory a human being can achieve is not to rule others, but to rule himself, for the man who conquers his inner enemy becomes unstoppable in every external war. Chaos is the natural state of existence. Everything around you, your work, your relationships, your environment, tends to drift toward disorder unless something within you brings structure to it. And that something is your mind, your discipline, and your values. Before you can create stability in the external world, you must first create it within yourself. You cannot demand harmony from the world when your own thoughts are in conflict. You cannot lead others when your own life lacks direction. Internal order, clarity of purpose, emotional discipline, and moral strength is the foundation upon which all external success stands. Without it, no achievement, no relationship, no dream can endure. Think about it. If your inner world is filled with confusion, doubt, and emotional chaos, everything you touch will carry that same disorder. You may build, but your structures will crumble. You may plan, but your plans will lack conviction. The outer world is a mirror. It reflects what's happening inside you. People who live in constant frustration are not victims of their environment. They are reflections of their internal disarray. Order begins when you take responsibility for your thoughts, your habits, and your priorities. When you begin to govern your mind the way a wise ruler governs a kingdom, with fairness, with clarity, with purpose, your external world begins to align accordingly. But internal order isn't about perfection. It's about hierarchy. It's about putting first things first. You must decide what truly matters and what doesn't. Without that structure, life feels overwhelming because everything demands your attention at once. The person without inner order is pulled in 1,000 directions, reacting to everything and creating nothing. But when you have internal structure, when your values are clear and your vision is defined, your actions follow a rhythm. You begin to say no to distractions not out of rigidity, but out of purpose. The chaos outside loses its grip because you've already brought peace within. Creating internal order requires sacrifice. You can't bring harmony to your life while holding on to every impulse and distraction. You must confront your own contradictions, the parts of you that want comfort and the parts that crave greatness. It means cleaning the mental and emotional clutter you've ignored for years. It means facing your insecurities and structuring your days with discipline. Order is not a product of comfort. It's born through discomfort, through saying no to what's easy so you can say yes to what's meaningful. When your inner world becomes organized, you develop an authority that radiates outward in your speech, your posture, your decisions. People sense it, they trust it, and here lies the truth. External success is always a reflection of internal order. The world bows to those who have mastered their minds, because such individuals bring stability wherever they go. They don't merely survive chaos, they transform it. When you bring order within, your environment responds, opportunities become clearer, relationships become healthier, and your direction becomes undeniable. The storms of life may still rage, but within you there is a calm center, a place that no fear, no failure, no external event can shake. That is the power of internal order. It is not just the beginning of greatness, it is its very essence. Every human being is born with potential, the capacity for greatness, creativity, leadership, and transformation. But potential by itself is worthless. It's like untapped energy, powerful yet dormant. Discipline is the bridge that turns potential into actual power. Without discipline, talent decays. Without discipline, dreams remain fantasies. The difference between those who merely imagine a better life and those who create it is not luck, not intelligence, but discipline, the ability to do what must be done, even when you don't feel like doing it. Discipline is the silent architect of success, the invisible force that shapes chaos into order and intention into achievement. Most people believe motivation is the fuel for achievement, but motivation is fickle. It comes and goes like the weather. Discipline, however, is constant. It doesn't rely on feelings, it relies on principles. When you're disciplined, you don't wait to feel ready, you act because you're committed. You show up when you're tired, you persist when it's boring, and you continue when others quit. Every repetition, every small act of self-control strengthens your internal authority. Over time, that authority becomes your power, the power to direct your life rather than be directed by impulses, moods, or external pressures. Discipline is not punishment. It's the highest form of self-respect. It says, I am worth the effort. Discipline also refines the mind. It teaches you to delay gratification, to trade short-term pleasure for long-term purpose. Every time you resist distraction, every time you prioritize what matters over what's easy, you sharpen your focus and strengthen your will. The undisciplined mind scatters energy across countless trivialities, achieving nothing substantial. But a disciplined mind channels that same energy toward meaningful goals. That's the essence of power, focused energy. When you align your actions with your values and your habits with your vision, your potential stops being theoretical. It becomes kinetic. It moves the world around you. The truth is, discipline demands sacrifice. You must give up comfort to grow, give up excuses to progress, give up distractions to achieve mastery. And yes, it's painful, but that pain is sacred. It's the price of transformation. Discipline reshapes your character. It molds your identity. The same person who once avoided discomfort becomes the one who seeks it, knowing that growth lives there. Discipline rewires the brain to find strength in struggle, meaning in effort, and satisfaction in persistence. It's not about living a rigid life. It's about building the kind of inner structure that allows freedom to flourish. Because true freedom isn't the absence of rules, it's the mastery of them. And when you finally live with discipline, your potential no longer remains hidden. It manifests in your actions, your words, your achievements, and your presence. You become someone others can rely on, someone whose consistency commands respect. You stop hoping for success, you earn it. The world begins to respond differently to you because you've changed your relationship with yourself. Discipline turns potential into something visible, tangible, and powerful. It transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary impact. It is the quiet force that shapes destiny, the foundation upon which all greatness is built. The ego is a master of illusion. It convinces you that you are always right, that you are always deserving, and that the world owes you recognition. It tells you that strength means domination, that validation equals worth, and that humility is weakness. But the truth is, ego is a prison, a beautifully decorated cage that keeps you trapped within your own self-importance. It blinds you to growth, isolates you from truth, and separates you from others. The more you feed it, the smaller your real self becomes. The person ruled by ego doesn't live, he performs. He speaks not to express truth, but to impress others. He works not to improve himself, but to preserve an image, and eventually that image becomes his identity, fragile, hollow, and easily shattered. Ego thrives on comparison. It measures your value by the reflection you see in others' eyes. If someone achieves more, the ego feels threatened. If someone praises you, it feels inflated. But in both cases, you remain its prisoner, dependent on external approval to feel complete. The ego's game has no end, because no amount of recognition can fill the emptiness it hides. The more you chase validation, the more you lose yourself. And when you lose yourself, no victory can bring peace, and no applause can quiet the inner void. Ego promises power but delivers fragility. It builds castles made of glass, which collapse the moment truth touches them. Integrity, on the other hand, is freedom. It requires no audience, no approval, no pretense. It's the quiet alignment between what you believe, what you say, and what you do. Integrity is not loud. It doesn't need to announce itself. It's the invisible strength that sustains your dignity when no one is watching. When you act with integrity, you stop performing and start being. You no longer live for image, you live for truth. You stop asking, "How do I look?" and start asking, "Am I honest? Am I right? Am I becoming who I should be?" That is where real strength begins, in the silent commitment to do what is right, even when it's difficult, even when no one will ever know. Living with integrity dismantles the prison walls of ego. It forces you to confront the uncomfortable truths about yourself, the pride you hide behind, the lies you tell to protect your image, the excuses you use to avoid responsibility. It's painful to face, but that pain is purification. Every time you choose truth over vanity, humility over pride, and authenticity over performance, you break another chain that ego wrapped around you. Integrity doesn't make you perfect, it makes you real. It's what allows you to walk through life with your head high and your conscience clear. In a world obsessed with appearance, integrity becomes a form of rebellion, the courage to stand for what's right, even when it costs you approval. And here lies the paradox. The more you let go of ego, the stronger you become. Because ego demands control, but integrity builds trust. Ego isolates, but integrity connects. Ego inflates your image, but integrity fortifies your character. The world may admire your ego, but it respects your integrity. And respect built on truth lasts longer than admiration built on illusion. When you live by integrity, you no longer need to prove your worth. Your actions speak for you. You become someone unshakable, someone grounded in reality, someone whose strength doesn't depend on applause. In that freedom, the world finally bows not to your image, but to your authenticity. For the man who escapes the prison of ego and chooses the path of integrity becomes truly invincible. True power begins within. When you conquer yourself, your fears, your doubts, your impulses, you align with the natural flow of life. Self-mastery is not merely control. It is harmony between your inner values, your thoughts, and your actions. It is the understanding that the universe responds not to desire alone, but to clarity, discipline, and intentionality. The person who has mastered themselves moves with a silent authority that the world instinctively recognizes. Their decisions are precise, their actions deliberate, and their presence undeniable. When internal order exists, external order begins to mirror it. The universe rewards consistency and purpose. People who have not mastered themselves often struggle because they act inconsistently, guided by whims, moods, and temporary emotions. But the self-mastered individual acts with integrity and vision. Their actions ripple outward, creating patterns that attract opportunities, relationships, and resources aligned with their intentions. It is as if the external world cannot help but respond to a mind that is disciplined, focused, and unyielding in pursuit of meaningful goals. Self-mastery creates resonance, a gravitational pull that draws the right circumstances toward you. Self-mastery also clarifies purpose. When you are ruled by discipline, integrity, and awareness, you no longer drift aimlessly through life. Your goals are not abstract wishes, but deliberate choices that reflect your highest values. The alignment between inner intent and outer action generates momentum. Tasks that once felt difficult become manageable. Challenges that once felt insurmountable are approached strategically. Your energy is concentrated rather than dispersed. In this state, the universe itself seems to conspire in your favor. Because you are no longer at odds with the natural order, you are moving in harmony with it. Moreover, self-mastery transforms relationships and influence. When you act from a place of inner strength, you no longer seek validation or manipulate outcomes. People are drawn to your presence not because you demand it, but because you emanate stability, confidence, and authenticity. Leaders, creators, and visionaries who have mastered themselves rarely rely on force. Their influence is magnetic. Their words carry weight, their actions inspire trust, and their presence commands attention. The alignment between their inner clarity and external behavior creates a ripple effect, shaping the environment around them in subtle but undeniable ways. Finally, self-mastery is liberation. It frees you from the chaos of reaction, the tyranny of ego, and the limitations of fear. The person who masters themselves is no longer a slave to circumstance or opinion. Their path is deliberate, their power sustainable, and their presence transformative. When inner mastery is achieved, the universe seems to respond, not because of magic, but because clarity, discipline, and integrity resonate at every level of existence. In mastering yourself, you don't just survive in the world, you thrive, and the world naturally aligns with the strength, purpose, and authenticity you radiate. The man who conquers himself becomes not just resilient, but unstoppable, and in that unstoppable state, the world bows naturally before him.